that many women sometimes suffer from these conditions, and they're all related back to what I've called signs, symptoms, and solutions. Many women suffer from mood swings, dry, itchy eyes, loss of sex drive, puffiness, bloating, ringing in the ears, fatigue, and inability to sleep, vaginal dryness, water retention, excessive hair on their face or arms, hair loss, thinning hair, or morning sluggishness, irregular periods, heart palpitations, dry skin, lack of concentration, endometriosis, things to do with what we call night sweats, leg cramps, hot flushes and weepiness, infertility, PMS, ovarian cysts. These can all plague women as a result of hormone imbalance. And many women are resorting now sometimes to take to contraceptive pills, or they may say to themselves, oh, I need to be put on Depo-Provera, or they might be take the coil up, again, in a way of combating the period, or trying to make sure that they're using it as a contraceptive. But this also creates a situation where it disrupts the body's natural hormone balance, and also brings in a lot of sometimes these symptoms that sometimes women may tend to medicate around, but also never really clear. So we're in a situation where this is some of the symptoms. Now, these can vary in their presence, but also most importantly can bring about a situation where they become permanent stay in people's experience. Now, also men go through hormone imbalance. And for men, you can find that sometimes men are going through insomnia, they have headaches, they have soft erections, they have cognitive decline, they're in a situation where they're experiencing memory loss, hair loss, they're experiencing anxiety, depression, irritability, difficulty sleeping, enlarged breasts. Sometimes going through erectile dysfunction, sleep disorders, erosion of their libido. They have difficulty sleeping, or they feel tired all the time, chronic fatigue, or they have prostate inflammation, lower stamina, decreased mental clarity. These are all things that can plague men as a result of hormone imbalance. And many suffer from these things, and they just go along with them as part of life. Sometimes we just accept them. And every man and every woman, as we age, after the age of 40, we're going to be experiencing some sort of hormone decline. Why? Because that's the way the body is actually being set up, in terms of the fact that over a period of time, the body will go through a sense where it is now going through what we call a state of hormone imbalance. But what we've got to remember is that why are all these things there? What is happening? We have been exposed to something called hormone disrupting chemicals. And these are things that we find in our toiletries, in foods that we use, in household products, in packaging. And the hormone disrupting chemicals, what they do is that they start to mimic our hormones. Where our hormones are supposed to fit properly into certain receptors, they start to actually move into that area and start to connect with where our hormones are supposed to fit. So this creates a disruption of our hormone health. And also, when you're having somebody saying, can you come over and do this? Let's say the brain sends a signal to the liver to do something, or sends a signal to the thyroid, or sends a signal to the pancreas. Sometimes what happens is that you can find that you're getting these hormone disrupting chemicals like DDT, like DDE, and endosulfan. They are all the atrazine. They all interfere with what we call our natural hormone health. Today, there are now studies are showing plastic or soft plastics are also one of the greatest dangers that we're facing today, because phthalates are things that actually build up in our system, meaning that they don't leave our system. And this happens because of the fact that a lot of the water we're drinking today is in plastic bottles. A lot of the juices are packaged in plastic lining. A lot of what we find in terms of really storage, we're constantly putting things in cling film, and we're having what they call a high exposure to plastic. And today you find that this soft plastic is now has been found in the womb of in the mother's womb, in the fetus, actually in the umbilical fluid. So we're saying that a lot of what we're seeing today is that we have to go back to the fact that what is our level of exposure to these hormone disrupting chemicals, and how can we reduce our exposure? Because today what we're seeing is a hormone explosion of hormone related cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer, cancer of the cervix, cancer of the uterus, womb cancers, all sorts, and also testicular cancer for men. This is all coming down to the fact that we are in a state where a lot of what is happening is that we are in a sea and an ocean of chemicals that is interrupting our natural environment. So it means that there's a book that has been written by Deborah Cadbury called The Feminization of Nature. And she did this book talking about the fact that when she studied the rivers and the lakes of Florida, she found that a lot of the alligators were actually stopping producing they were not producing very well. At the same time, they were having challenges. Even the seagulls were actually moving away from their young without actually tendering to them. At the same time, there's a lot of synthetic hormones like DES, which have been brought in the early days. And this also caused, it was brought in by Dr. Charles Dodd, who was actually presenting it as a way of really having better pregnancies and better relief through the pregnancy. But this caused major havoc in the fact that it took many years down the line before doctors realized that this product called DES was causing developmental problems in men and women. Men had descended testes. Women were having challenges in terms of their menstrual cycle, and many other congenital defects resulted from DES. And this was actually taken off the market. Today, HRT has been brought onto the market, hormone replacement therapy, another synthetic hormone. And again, it has now been linked to cancer. In fact, now people are now moving away from HRT, but yet today, what we're seeing is that many people are still being prescribed HRT, even though people are now realizing HRT has been linked to cancer. Dioxin is also another industrial compound that we're finding also disrupts and also impacts our hormone health. Today, a lot of women who use tampons, actually, they've been the dioxins are things that have been found in tampons, and this is actually now creating what they call more bleeding, because again, we're in a world where people who are actually bent on just moving into a state of creating great levels of profit for themselves, they would like women to go through longer levels of the menstrual cycle than they need to, so they put dioxins in their product. So this causes what they call more bleeding than is necessary. Today, we're also in a situation where formaldehyde, we should check our bath products, see if they have formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is a cancer-causing compounds. Formaldehyde and phenol are all linked to cancer. And many times, a lot of our bathroom products have got formaldehyde in them and phenol. Many of the cosmetics women use has got a lot of what we call chemicals that also could be also leading to what we call disrupting of our hormones. So we've got to find ways of looking at the products we put on our skin, because whatever we put on our skin goes straight into our blood supply. And we've got to find that these chemicals can also disrupt kidney function, it can also disrupt our hormone health, but also they actually sometimes build up what we call a toxic overload that can impact our bodies as well. We're seeing that the best way to move forward is minimizing the way we actually wrap our food in terms of, I know we've got to eat, sleep, and drink, but the way we actually expose ourselves to plastics, we should now realize that plastics around the world is in our oceans, is in our rivers, in our lakes, and that's why today people are now clamoring in terms of climate change about reduction in plastic, because this is all ending up in the food chain and then ending up in our systems as well. So we have to be very careful when it comes to hormone balance, because all these things affect the reproductive cycle. Today, we're seeing that many people are actually in a state where their quality of their reproductive cycle is interfered with. Some people have missing periods, some people have no period at all, some people have gone into a situation where some women have actually moved into a situation where they're having irregular or very painful periods, or going through a situation where they're having challenges and around period menstrual health. So we're saying that the hypothalamus is so important as a gland, because again, part of the endocrine system, it instructs the pituitary gland to release two powerful hormones that manage the development and release of the egg from the ovary. So the follicle stimulating hormone, as we see there, and the luteinizing hormone play a key role in development and release of the egg from the ovary. But what is most important as we move forward is, in terms of hormone health, is the fact that we are seeing that a lot of us sometimes are suffering from what they call deficiencies in very important key hormones. For example, for men, you find that if they've got testosterone deficiency, this can bring on issues around hormone symptoms. Sometimes you find that if they've got too many xenoestrogens are just bad estrogens. They can come from carpets or furniture that we have, furniture in terms of polish that we use in furniture. So certain things are what they call xenoestrogens. You can look it up yourself. Cortisol deficiency is another very important one that affects both men and women. And you find that sometimes people are low in their levels of cortisol. They are in a situation where they're, for example, sometimes people, if they have got low levels of cortisol, the way they manage stress, the way they deal with stress, or if they get angry or upset, they stay angry for days. And they talk about it to everybody. Say, oh, you don't know, he did this or she did this. And that is because the low levels of cortisol are very low. So cortisol is a stress hormone that allows the body to cope with the environment it is in. And when you have low levels of cortisol, you will produce a range of symptoms related to that. DHEA is another hormone, and it's very important for really what they call hormone balance, mainly for men, but also women and men both produce male and female hormones. Now, if women tend to produce, if women have too many male hormones, what they call androgens or excess androgens, they can start to get what they call excessive facial hair, or they can start having what they call changing their voice. Again, they can have a situation where there's some changes in terms of the way they function or their sense of demeanor, again, because of having too many male hormones. And also can happen to men when we also have too many female hormones. People can actually start acting in a feminine way, or they can be feminized. This is why Deborah Cadbury was writing about the book called The Feminization of Nature, where people are now moving into what they call the transgender agenda, or they're feeling that they sometimes they don't know which toilet to go to. So all these things are part of what we call the transgender agenda, where hormones that are now flushed down the toilet in the form of contraceptive pills and all kinds of issues end up in our water supplies. They end up in our systems, and then we end up taking them back into our systems, and they interfere with our natural hormone balance. They interfere with the hormones that our body produces. Now, when we look at hormone health, we also want to understand the fact that women of African descent are having more of these fibroids. And there are sometimes women who are suffering from fibroids because of sometimes they've taken long to have a baby, or they're in a situation where slight tears in the womb are leading to what we can see there, which is hormone imbalance, which is ended up as fibroids. Now, fibroids are benign tumors, but actually can end up for women, can increase their menstrual flow longer than it needs to be. Some women tend to pass clots, so the cycle can become abnormal. It can lead to heavy bleeding, which causes anemia. They feel tired all the time. And the fibroids can actually cause a lot of pain. They can end up like the size of a golf ball, or sometimes end up the size of a football, and can sometimes make women look pregnant, even though they're not pregnant. But again, when somebody takes long to have a baby, the womb itself can actually now develop its own child, and in the form of the fact of a fibroid, and literally trying to compensate for something that is part of a natural cycle of progression. So this fibroids can also push on the nerves, on the bladder. They can cause what we call discomfort. They can cause constipation. They can cause urinary incontinence. They can cause painful sex. So all these things, things that actually impact around hormone health. Now, uterine fibroids, again, are linked back to hormone health. Again, you find that mainly women of African origin tend to have more prevalence around fibroids. But also what we're seeing today as well is that the fibroid presence can also be linked back to hormone health, back to emotional health, where we're seeing that self-hate can also be the emotion that is behind what we call fibroid proliferation. Again, this can also affect men in terms of the fact that men can suffer from prostate inflammation or prostate discomfort as a result of what we call an imbalance related to what we call the area of hormone imbalance. What we're also seeing today is that many women have been offered operations to cut these fibroids out, but then after having the operation, the fibroids regrow back, and they find that the fibroids now become, because whenever you got melanin in your system, your body now starts to, if you cut yourself on the top of your skin, your body can form a keloid. Now that is something that is similarly happening in the womb, where the womb has slight tears, which also now lead to what they call the growth of these fibroids. But most importantly, these fibroids are also in the position because the body is trying to repair itself, And if it doesn't have the right spare parts like magnesium, the chromium, the selenium, the copper, the manganese, the magnesium, you can also end up with fibroids. We've had a lot of women who've used our products and actually been able to completely reverse these fibroids. Why? Because the body now moves into a state of balance where it can now begin to correct, repair, and regenerate itself back to what it was designed to do. The reason why hormone imbalance also produces fibroids is because of lack of the fact that the body is lacking these key nutrients. So when we're looking about really hormone health, we really also want to fight the fact that some women suffer from PMS, which can bring on bloating, binge eating, cramping. It can bring on a state where there's a sense of tension. There's a sense where they're going through trouble concentrating, sleep disturbances. There are different types of PMS, and PMS can be associated mainly with high progesterone levels and high estrogen levels and low progesterone levels. And usually this links us back to vitamin B6. If you're lacking B6 in your system, you'll be predisposed towards getting hormone imbalance. And at the same time, there was a clinical trial that was done, and it was able to show that just by using vitamin B6, this was able to reduce blood estrogen, as well as also increase your progesterone levels and also reduce the symptoms of PMS. Some women sometimes have too much estrogen in the system, and this can lead to what we call increased in copper levels in the body, which can deplete zinc, which is the most important nutrient when it comes to what we call your immune system. Today, what we're seeing also some women suffer from, as we're talking about earlier on, food cravings. These food cravings can also be associated with PMS, where people are in a state where up to 30% of women have these sort of cravings related to PMS. And also you're finding that this tends to find that tends to be associated with the fact that they have low levels of magnesium in their blood and literally in the red blood cells. But also at the same time, we're also talking about the value of essential fats. This also is very important in maintaining hormone health, but also improving your well-being. Sometimes PMS is also associated with water retention, where water tends to build up in the system, and also it creates a sense where one has excess sodium in the body. So when one is actually prescribed diuretics, this can relieve what we call the excess water in the body, but also can bring on the fact that now one has a sense where that root cause is not dealt with. And also having these diuretics prescribed to you can also deplete your potassium levels as well. So PMS is also associated with high progesterone levels as well. So this again can bring on depression, again leading to people to actually look at the fact that they're either deficient in vitamin B6, they're deficient in magnesium, they're deficient in vitamin C. Now remember, the womb is literally like a muscle, and literally is contracting and relaxing all the time. So we have to remember that the womb itself, it needs calcium and magnesium. There's no other way that the womb can be healthy without those two components. And when you're lacking any one of those two, you're going to start the beginning point of what we call womb diseases. And many women sometimes are in a situation where they have not actually understood the power of these nutrients and what they can do. So they sort of say, oh, it's okay, I'll see how it goes. And they end up medicating on being put on conventional medicine. That sometimes makes what is worse because the root cause is not dealt with. Now, there's also many factors that contribute to PMS. Things like stress that we talked about earlier on can also contribute to PMS by constantly stimulating the adrenal glands, and this can lead to anxiety, it can lead to tension, can also lead to what they call the neurotransmitter called dopamine, actually interfering with your mood wellness. If you're low in essential fats, this is also another issue that we need to look at, because essential fats are very important in controlling the symptoms of PMS. Many women are sometimes lacking these essential fats, and this can also lead to excessive insulin being produced in the body. If you have low magnesium levels, this can also bring on poor appetite. You can have nausea, apathy, tiredness, muscle cramps, mood changes, and this magnesium is so important in converting glucose into energy. So if you've got PMS related to low magnesium levels, you'll find that even if you're pregnant and the baby is growing, the baby will start to pull on some of these nutrients. Sometimes mothers get what they call gestational diabetes, or they get gestational high blood pressure because of, again, they're having poor nutrient availability. And this can mean that many times they're going through a situation that is associated with low levels of magnesium, which can lead to depression and also can lead to weight gain and also water retention. Sometimes we are seeing that also if you are having PMS, you can also have what they call a situation where you have low vitamin B levels. Vitamin B is so important in production of energy. It's very important in mood health. It's very important in actually preventing anxiety. But if you're low in B1, you will have what they call a sense of anxiety, and depression and aggressiveness. If you're low in B3, you find that you are having problems with sugar balance and also energy production. If you're low in vitamin B5, this will affect your adrenal function. If you're low in vitamin B6, this will affect your capacity to produce insulin.